Hello, dear students. I welcome you all on behalf of Sri Jendra range of classes. Dear student, we are in a continuation of the chapter that is mineral nutrition. And today we are starting with in this lecture a topic that is the role of macro and micronutrients. Okay, so these macro and micronutrients are nothing but what? They are the types of essential elements. And we know that essential elements perform several functions. Okay, so if we talk about their role, we know obvious that essential element perform several functions and they participate in various metabolic processes in the plant cell. And this metabolic processes such as permeability of the cell membrane, if we take, then sub membranes are permeable. That is particularly for that also some particular elements play a role. Maintenance of osmotic concentration of cell sap. Okay, osmotic concentration of cells and like potassium will play important role. Then they also act as a major constituent of macromolecule and coenzymes, then also involved in buffering actions, then enzymatic activity, activation of some of the enzymes. In electron transport chain, they are particularly acting as some of the electron, they are cofactor for some of the electron carrier. These all are the particular, we can say, metabolic processes, okay, in which the particular element participate. Now, when this element participate in such things, there are different 17 essential elements, and each essential element has various functions. So the various forms and functions of essential elements are given below that we will discuss. Along with that, we will talk about their deficiency symptoms also, some of them, not all, some of them important we will discuss. So first is the nitrogen. If we talk about the first element, nitrogen, we know that it is present 78% in the atmosphere. Okay, and it is the mineral nutrient element required by plant in greatest amount. It is required by plant in the greatest amount, and this nitrogen is absorbed mainly as nitrate, though sometimes it is also be taken up or absorbed as a nitrite and ammonium ion, that is NH4 plus. Now, if we talk about nitrogen in detail, nitrogen is required by all parts of the plant, particularly meristematic tissue and metabolically active cells. The particularly meristematic tissue, dividing tissues, dividing cells, tissues, and the metabolic active cells, they require this particular nitrogen. Okay. Now, nitrogen is one of the major constituent of protein, nucleic acid are DNA and RNA, then enzymes, vitamins, and hormones. Okay, and it also play important role in the nitrogen cycle as well. We will discuss the nitrogen cycle during the nitrogen metabolism. So during all this process, the nitrogen content is also enriching within the soil, and that is used in such a way, so it is one of the important component. Nitrogen is one of the important factor there for this thing. Okay, so it is one of the element which is required in greatest amount, and it is obviously required by the meristematic activity dividing cells. Okay. Okay, so these are the where the constituent is, what are the regions where they are synthesized or required, which are the absorbable form, and what are the deficiencies, what is the major function that we have discussed. Now we are going to talk about the deficiency symptoms. If the nitrogen become deficient, then what will be the deficiency symptom of nitrogen in plant. So if you talk about this deficiency symptom, then this deficiency symptom include chlorosis of older leaves. Chlorosis is yellowing of older leaves. So chlorosis means yellowing of leaves occur. Okay, so chlorosis of older leaves, then you will see in the absence of nitrogen or deficiency, you will see stunted growth, that is a decreased growth, and the slow division will occur. And due to the deficiency, the size of cell will be smaller, less yield, purple coloration of shoot apex and then wrinkling of cereal grains. Okay, so that is the what a particularly deficient symptoms of, we can say, nitrogen. Okay. Now after this, if we talk about the another element, then the another element which we are going to discuss, that is a phosphorus. Now phosphorus, if we talk, phosphorus is absorbed by a plant from the soil. It is obviously absorbed from the soil, but it in the form of the phosphate ion, that is either H2PO4 minus or HPO4 2 minus. In this form they are getting absorbed. Phosphorus is constituted of cell membrane. Obviously, we know that in cell membrane, the phospholipid bilayer is there. We define a cell membrane as a phospholipid bilayer. So the lipid have a phosphate. Okay. Along with this, if you see there are certain proteins in which the phosphorus is also found. All nucleic acids like DNA and RNA, they have phosphodiester bond where the phosphate is there between the nucleotides, and the nucleotides also have a phosphoric acid along with the nucleoside. And it is also required, or all phosphorylation reaction means in ATP formation also it is also required. So this all things where the phosphorus is involved. Okay. So if we talk about, this is the phosphorus which is where involved everywhere. Now if we talk about their deficiency symptoms, then if we talk about deficiency symptoms of phosphorus, then dear students, when there is a less phosphorus in the particular plant body, you will see the stunted growth, means height is decreased. Now the leaves, if we talk, that leaves are dull green or with anthocyanin. Okay, then chlorosis with necrosis. Chlorosis is a yellowing of leaves, and necrosis is a deadening of tissues or deadening of leaves. And that chlorosis and necrosis first in older leaves. Okay, then premature abscission, that is premature abscission or premature fall of leaf. Then delayed flowering, the flowering will get delayed. Poor vascular, delayed flowering and seed germination, both are delayed in the absence of phosphorus. Purple or red spot on leaves. Okay, so this is the some of the symptoms which occur into the deficiency of the phosphorus. Now after phosphorus, the next element which we are going to discuss, that is a potassium. Now this potassium is obviously absorbed by a plant from the soil in the form of K plus ion, that is a potassium ion. And obviously it is observed from the soil. Now if we talk about its functions or physiological role, that is required in more abundant quantities in the meristematic tissues. So it is required in more abundant quantities, in large quantities by the meristematic tissues, buds, leaves and root tip. Okay. Now, so you can see they are required by meristematic tissue and the buds, specifically root tips, okay, and the leaves. This potassium, as we know and we have studied in the previous chapter, it is maintain the cation and anion balance. Okay, it is involved in cation and anion balance in the cell. Okay, then potassium involved in several other important mechanisms like protein synthesis. It is involved in protein synthesis, then activation of some of the enzymes, and opening and closing of stomata by the maintenance of the turgidity of the cell. And for the opening of stomata, the turgidity is maintained in specifically guard cells. Okay, So this way the potassium play a role, okay, in the stomatal movement also. So if we talk about this potassium and the potassium role as we have discussed, that is the maintenance of turgidity, opening, closing of stomata, balancing anion cation balance, these all are important things. Now if the deficiency will occur, the deficiency of potassium will occur, then what will be the deficiencies? Then here the dieback will occur. Dieback means deadening up starts from the periphery and towards the center of the particular plant. Then deficiency will lead to the chlorosis or yellowing in intervenal areas. Okay. Then loss of apical dominance in the absence of what the potassium. Loss of cambial activity. Plastid disintegration. Then premature death, marginal yellowing, bushy habit. This all thing will occur in the deficiency of the potassium. Now after potassium, next macro element is the calcium. As we know, calcium is absorbed in the form of Ca2 plus ion. So calcium from the soil in the form of calcium ion, that is Ca2 plus divalent ion. And we know that calcium is important for the bone. Calcium deficiency also will lead to the water, particularly yellowing. So these are the roles. Now, if we talk about the role in detail, calcium is required by meristematic and differentiating tissue specifically. Differentiating means non-dividing tissue. During cell division, if we talk, it is used in the synthesis of cell wall, particularly calcium peptide in the middle lamella. We know that middle lamella is present between the two adjacent cells. In between the two adjacent cells, wall of the two adjacent cells. And this is made up of calcium and magnesium peptide, mainly calcium peptide. So there is a need of calcium in the middle lamella formation between the two cells. And it is also needed during the formation of the mitotic spindle. Mitotic spindle are required during the division and the chromosome movement towards the opposite pole. Okay. Then you can see here the division is occurring, and the particularly during division also it is playing an important role. Calcium accumulates in older leaves. It is also known as calcium accumulation occur in the older leaves, and it is involved in the normal functioning of the cell membrane. Involved in normal functioning of the cell membrane. It activates certain enzymes and play important role in regulating metabolic activation. Okay, important role in regulating metabolic activation. Calcium is also an important element that helps in fertilizer water. Along with calcium, magnesium, manganese, and chlorine are also required for the what particular fertilizer of water during the photosynthesis. Okay, so these are the roles important one. Okay, so normal functioning of cell membrane, that is a what maintain permeability, that we have accumulated in older tissue, that all things we have discussed. Now, if calcium deficiency occur, and what will happen? So deficiency of calcium, and under the deficiency of calcium, you will see that there is a stunted growth, and along with that, important one is the degeneration of young meristem. Okay, so degeneration of young meristem will occur, especially root apex. Then chlorosis, necrosis will have curling appearing first in young leaves. You will see the curling appear in young leaves. Okay, then premature flower abscission. So these all things occur in the deficiency of the calcium. Now after this, the next element which is found, that is magnesium. If we talk about a physiological role of magnesium in its absorbable form, it is absorbed by the plants in the form of divalent magnesium ion, that is Mg2 plus ion. And it activates the enzymes of the respiration and photosynthesis, and it is involved in the synthesis of DNA and RNA. It is involved in synthesis of DNA and RNA. Magnesium is a constituent of a ring structure of chlorophyll. In chlorophyll, mainly it is magnesium is involved as a ring structure. Okay, okay, in the porphyrin ring is there where the magnesium is present in the chlorophyll structure, and it is also required for the maintenance of ribose structure. The 0.001 molar concentration is required to form a dimer, otherwise they will be found in a dissociated form. Apart from this, magnesium activates certain enzymes. Okay, and it is known that magnesium activate enzymes like hexokinase, phosphofructokinase, pyruvate kinase, etc. And enzymes of photosynthesis like and that are rubisco, peptase also. Okay, so these are the particular role of the magnesium. Now, magnesium is a structural component of this particular one. So the deficiency symptoms of magnesium, if we talk, mainly it include the purple colored spots. In older leaves, then underdeveloped with phloem. So okay, so this will be the NP. These are some of the particularly deficient symptoms which are seen in case of the magnesium. Now after this, next element is sulfur. If we talk about sulfur, the plants obtain sulfur in the form of sulfate ion, that is SO2, SO4 2 minus. Okay. Now it is also known as sulfur is present in two amino acids, that is the constituent of amino acid, that is a cysteine and methionine. Okay, they have a sulfur, because of this they are sulfur containing amino acid. Okay, now it is the main constituent of several coenzymes, vitamins, that is in the vitamins in which it is acting as a main constituent. They are the thymine, biotin, and coenzyme A. Okay, so this you should remember: thymine, biotin, and coenzyme A. Okay, and along with that, you will see that the ferredoxin also has this particular sulfur. So sulfur is the particular one which is here found. It is also a constituent of lipoic acid, and it is component of allyl oils of onion, garlic, and crucifer. In there also it is found. Now, when the deficiency of sulfur, so deficiency symptoms of sulfur lead to reduced nodulation in legume, reduced nodulation in legumes, Defoliation means the removal of falling of a leaf in tea. Then anthocyanin accumulation, which gives purple spots. Okay, so this is the what some of the deficiency symptoms of the sulfur. So sulfur forms after this sulfur also forms a disulfide bridge. Apart from this, sulfur forms a disulfide bridge which help in stabilize the protein structure also. You can see here these are the sulfur containing compound and they are forming a disulfide bridge. Same way these are the sulfur containing compound and they are forming a disulfide bridge which gives the stability to the structure. Okay. Now after the sulfur you will see that the next element is the iron. And if you talk about iron, this iron is absorbed as in the form of ferric ions, that is Fe3 plus. Okay. Now, if we talk about its physiological functions, iron is required in larger amount compared to other micronutrients that we have already discussed. And it is an important constituent of protein involved in the transfer of electron like ferredoxin and cytochrome. So ferredoxin and cytochromes are the electron carriers which are involved in a particularly we can say the ETS of the photosynthesis and the respiration both. And these are the proteinaceous component. So they have this particular ion as their constituent. Now it is reversibly oxidized. This ferrous Fe2 plus is reversibly oxidized to the ferric ion during the electron transfer. Okay, so Fe plus 2 by release of electron converting to the Fe3 plus. It activates catalase enzyme. Along with this, if you talk about its physiological role, it is activate catalase enzyme, and along with it is essential in the formation of chlorophyll. Okay. Now it is also known that it also activate peroxidase and nitrogenase enzyme. Also activate peroxidase and nitrogenase enzyme. Now after this is what a particularly we can say the iron. After this, if we talk about the next element is the manganese. Manganese is absorbed as a manganese ion from the soil, obviously, that is Mn2 plus. Now it is also known that manganese activate many enzymes involved in the photosynthesis and respiration and nitrogen metabolism. In photosynthesis, specifically during the photolysis of water, this manganese is required. The best defined function of the manganese is that the splitting of water, that is a photolysis of water to liberate oxygen during the photosynthesis. And it is also an activator of indole acid oxidase enzyme. Apart from this manganese is important in some of the oxidation reduction reactions. Okay, specifically photolysis of water that we have discussed. Now, deficiency symptom, if we talk, the deficiency symptoms of manganese include marsh spot disease, where legume cotyledon with brownish spot are found, and the flowers become sterile. When the gray spots are found on the particular leaves that are the deficiency symptom of manganese. After this, the next element is the zinc. If you talk about the zinc, it is known that it is plant obtain zinc as a Zn2 plus ion and it activates various enzymes. Okay, so it is also known that it activates various enzymes, especially carboxylases. Okay, along with this, it also needed in the synthesis of oxygen and it also activates some of the more enzymes. Okay, so it activates especially carboxylases. It is also known that it also activates carboxypeptidases and alcohol dehydrogenase. Okay, that also particularly they will play a role in this. After this, the zinc, if you talk, the deficient symptoms are also there, and the deficiency symptoms of zinc include the leaf rosette, means a group of leaf is formed. The bud will be white, and the stunted growth will occur. So such things are occur in the deficient symptoms of the zinc. Now after this, the next element is the copper, and it is absorbed as a cupric ion, that is U2 plus. Okay. If you talk about its physiological role, it is essential for the oral metabolism in plant. Okay. And this copper, like iron, it is also associated with the oxidation reduction reaction and associated with certain enzymes of this redox reaction and reversibly oxidized from the cuprous to the cupric ion. This particular copper is also structural component of electron carriers like cytochrome C oxidase, okay, and plastocyanin in chloroplast and cytochrome C oxidase during the ATS in the mitochondria. And this particular copper is essential for vitamin C synthesis. Copper is essential for vitamin C, that is ascorbic acid synthesis. Okay. Then, if we talk about this copper, and when we talk about its deficiency element or deficient symptoms, it include leaf tip necrosis disease, that is reclamation disease, and here the blackening of potato tubers will occur, and the deficiency of this particular, we can say, the copper. Now the next element is boron. The boron, if we talk about, is one of the important element. It is absorbed as a borate and tetraborate ion, that is BO3 minus or B4O7 minus. In this form, they can be absorbed. Now, this boron, if we talk, it is required for the uptake and utilization of calcium. For the uptake and utilization of calcium, it is used. Okay, membrane functioning. For the membrane functioning, it is also used. Then pollen germination, it is also used in the germination of pollen grain. Then cell elongation, cell differentiation, carbohydrate translocation. Okay. Now in this, be remember these two are the important. These three are the important function. Sugar translocation. These three they usually ask. You should remember this particular thing. And this microelement is also associated with the activation of certain enzymes. So that is what a particularly boron. Now after boron, the next element is molybdenum. If we talk about the molybdenum is particularly obtained by the plant in the form of molybdenum ion, that is MeO2 plus, and it is a component of several enzymes including nitrogenase and the nitrate reductase, and both of which participate in nitrogen metabolism. So molybdenum is involved with the particular enzymes which are involved in nitrogen metabolism. After this, the next element is the chlorine. If we talk about chlorine, we know that along with the manganese and calcium, it is involved in this chlorine is involved in photolysis of water during the photosynthesis. Now it is absorbed in the form of chloride ion, that is Cl minus, and it is known that along with sodium and potassium, it helps in determining the solute concentration and the anion cation balance in cell. Obviously, we have studied when there is a in a guard cell during the opening of stomata, we have studied that when there is extra K plus, the Cl minus will enter the guard cell and neutralize this K plus. Okay, so solute concentration and in the valence also they are particularly helping. And it is essential for the water splitting, that is photolysis of water in photosynthesis, a reaction that lead to the oxygen evolution. Okay. Now after this, the next one is the nickel. And if we talk about nickel, it is recently recognized as the 17th essential element and it acts as activator for the several enzymes. Important one, that is the urease, an important enzyme of the nitrogen metabolism. And here this urease split urea in plant body to obtain a nitrogen. Okay, so it is found to induce a disease resistance in some plant also. So these are the different elements that we have discussed till now. They are important for the particularly plant. Now let's discuss some of the MCQs by after the role of discussing the role of macro and micronutrient. That is nitrogen is absorbed mainly in the form of, we have studied that it is absorbed in NO3 minus, that is nitrate. Potassium is absorbed in an obvious simple form, that is a K plus ion. Potassium helps maintain in anion cation balance obviously. Okay, so deficient symptom of essential element we will discuss in next chapter. So next lecture we will discuss the deficiency as well as toxicity of the element. Okay, so that is all about the role of macro and micronutrients individually. I hope you understood well. Thank you. In this, you have to remember the majority things. Deficient symptoms are not important because important deficient symptoms we will discuss in the later on. Specific deficient symptoms of which element are no need to remember. We have noted some of them, but no need to remember. Okay, thank you.